Hello everyone and welcome to Late to the Game with Will, Mac, and me. I'm of course me, your host David, the ringleader of the show. And of course to my right, as always, we have my silent partners, Will and Mac. Thanks for joining. This week we're going to talk about some things and some stuff. For example, we will have the Animal of the Week. That's exciting. Along with an invention that I discovered recently that might save you a couple of bucks. And last and not least, we're going to check in with today's latest trends. You know, really see what the kids are getting into these days and see what's what. But of course, before we do any of that, we have to check out the tea of the day. Now, this week's tea, I'm going to be honest with you, I kept it simple. Nothing crazy. Just a very nice blend. Actually, it's not a blend. It's just a green tea bag. Just a green tea bag in hot water. And it's flavorful. It's tasty. And frankly, it's good for you. There's something in tea called antioxidants. I'm not exactly sure what those are or what they mean, but they are good for you. So I recommend adding green tea into your daily life. You know, just a cup or two should do the trick. You don't want to let the water quite boil just beforehand, just when it's on just surging. They're starting to bubble a little bit. That's when you want to shut down the water and add that tea bag. Well, now that we've done that, we can sort of get into the show, I suppose. Yeah, let's do that. First, we'll introduce to you the Animal of the Week, like I said, and it's the raccoon. Those little pricks. The genus Procyon, if I'm saying that correct, they are one of 7 species with bushy ringtails. And the most common of the raccoons is the North American raccoon. And frankly, I find that a little lazy. And kind of easy to racialize. You know, you see a raccoon going through your garbage, like, oh, what do you know? Another North American raccoon going through my trash. What a surprise. So I'm not a big fan of the name. I think they could have been, a little bit more specific. Like, garbage raccoon. I don't know. I'm not sure. It just doesn't quite sit right with me. And despite being North American, raccoons are actually quite intelligent, which I knew from watching the cartoon series, The Raccoons. Ralph was the smart one, and Melissa was the, pretty one. Not that I, fancy myself a raccoon. And then we had the other one. What was his name? Bert. It was Bert. Bert was the, he was a bit of a troublemaker, but nonetheless, great show. Good Canadian programming. Check it out on CBC if it's still on the air. So like I said, they are smart, they are inquisitive, and much like myself, have hairless front feet. That's right, no hair on the front of their feet. And apparently, back in the day, raccoons were seen washing their food. So they took the trash out of the garbage can, and if there was water nearby, they would actually wash the food. And their diet is officially garbage. That's on the internet, which is quite an interesting food group. What's also interesting about the raccoon is its ability to hibernate. We always hear about those darn bears. Oh, we hibernate for half of the year. The raccoon can also hibernate in a pinch if it needs to. And like most species, male raccoons mate with multiple female raccoons throughout their lifespan, which is something I think we humans may have got incorrect. But nonetheless, they sleep around. They get around. Actually, similar to humans, they can live a lot longer if they're miserable. That's right. 20 years in captivity is their lifespan versus 5 years out in the wild. So, it's kind of a little risky out there, but you're free. You can roam around, but you got to look out for those bears I talked about, that's for sure. But they have a defensive style game. They play defense, good defense, and that's how you win championships. Bobcats, coyotes, mountain lions, all sorts of predators that come up in everyday life for the average raccoon. Unfortunately, we had something called the 19th century fur industry, and that really did a number on them. We wanted their coats. So apparently they were nice, they were shiny, and well, frankly, they were quite warm. So until we discovered other ways of making, winter jackets and things like that, the Raccoons really felt that one, unfortunately. But we've gotten better, and I don't think we do that anymore. I don't think so. Frankly, back then, it just sucked to be an animal with really nice fur. There also is a lesser-known crab-eating raccoon in South America, which looks similar, but I imagine it eats crabs instead of garbage. But we don't have time for that this week. Maybe we'll get into that type of raccoon another time. Let's move along to our next segment. And I talked about the possibility of saving a few bucks. Yeah, saving a few bucks. And I think we can all afford to, save a few bucks, to be honest with you. Even this tea is getting a little pricey, but similar to tea, kind of like the cousin of tea, and that would be coffee. There's a coffee shop pretty much on every corner. You see Tim Hortons, you see Starbucks everywhere. They're really flourishing. Starbucks opening up a bunch of new locations, it seems, all the time, but coffee everywhere. But I noticed that it's not cheap. You're going to have to spend some money if you want to have that cup of joe. So I said to myself, there's got to be a better way than spending all that money on my addiction. I love coffee. I don't think, personally, this is just me, I don't think I could survive without coffee. I would be very miserable, like a raccoon in captivity, actually, to compare that. So I did a little research, and I found something called a coffee machine. Yeah, a coffee machine. And I have one actually here to show you. Here we go. So if you can see this, it's and I already have it filled up with water. It's a little bit on the heavy side, but this is something called a Keurig. It's a Keurig machine, and I believe Keurig stands for single serve in German. That's right. It's the German word for single serve because it just takes one cup. If you can see here, 1 cup. There you go, 1 cup. And you just put it in this little, this thing. They have a thing here where you put it in, you pop it down, you hit a button, and it serves coffee, just like that. And when the water gets low, you simply fill it up again. And let me tell you, it's a good investment. If you're a big coffee drinker, instead of spending going out and getting paying $1.50, $2 for a coffee, whatever it is these days, you can get a box of these Keurigs, which works out to 50 cents a cup. If you find yourself craving a coffee in the afternoon when you're not at home with your coffee machine, I would recommend going around that area and knocking on a few doors. Chances are somebody has purchased one of these things. They're getting quite popular, so your odds are pretty good. So go ahead, check out www.coffeemachines.ca, where you will find a wide variety of coffee machines. I'm sure you'll find one to your liking. I mentioned we're going to talk about the latest trend, and this one's an interesting one. There's this application. It's called Facebook. It was created by this nice young fella, Mark Zuckerberg. Seems like a good guy. And it's an app where you can connect with old friends that you never talked to. So you can have this long list of people that you didn't talk to in high school, and now you can have them there. And if you want to talk to them, you can. You may not want to, but it's nice to have that option. But there are some questions and concerns I have around this new Facebook app. There is some interesting posts that didn't quite make sense to me. For example, there was this one says, I bet your first job was at McDonald's. And I thought that was strange. Because if you think about it, how is it possible that everybody's first job would be McDonald's? Because then there would be nobody working at Burger King or Tim Hortons or other places. Anyways, I thought that was kind of strange. And then there was another one where it said, name a city without the letter A. I bet you can't. I'm like, that's a challenge. And I accepted that challenge. And I proceeded to list off about 47 cities without the letter A. So I don't know who this individual is, but they really have to pick up an atlas and look at some names of some cities. Toronto comes to mind. Edmonton comes to mind. Just to name a couple. Phoenix as well. And then one day, I was resetting my Hotmail password. That's right. Every once in a while, it's good to reset your passwords. If you didn't know that, please do. It's a good practice. And one of the security questions was, what was your first job? And I said to myself, well, was it McDonald's? I had to think for a second there. It wasn't, unfortunately. And then it dawned on me after the next question, which was the name of your first pet. Because I also remember seeing something on Facebook which said, and I quote, I bet your first pet name was Fluffy. And again, I thought that was quite odd. Could you imagine a bunch of Fluffies everywhere? Everyone's got Fluffy. Here's my dog Fluffy. I have a dog Fluffy too. Look at that. We both have a couple Fluffies. So I put it all together and then I said to myself, I think these people might be after your Hotmail password. It's like, whoa, take it easy, guys. Who's doing that? So if it's not a friend or a family member or someone from the government, they may not be trustworthy. So I would be a little bit careful when posting on this new application, Facebook. That's right, be careful out there. But it's all got all sorts of fun stuff. There's a dating site. You can play games. You can spend a lot of time, a lot of hours in the day just doing nothing. Anyways, I am going to leave the show there. I hope you found this informative. Next week, we have a very special guest. Corey Hart's going to be with us, and he's going to explain to us why he wore his sunglasses at night. That's right. Can't wait. Thanks for joining, folks. Have yourself a lovely day. Bye-bye.